So I am here to discuss UPSC Mains General Studies, Paper 1. Question number 1, starting from question number 1. So question number 1, 10 marks question. Underline the changes in the field of society and economy from Rig Vedic to the Later Vedic period. So the question is asked from Rig Vedic to Later Vedic period. So first, in introduction, you could write any of the 2-3 lines. For example, Rig Vedic people were wanderers, unsettled people, where they had no agriculture, mainly tribal pastoral, and they did not live the settled life, which by the later Vedic age became a settled sedentary life based on agriculture, and from tribal to rural society. In Rig Vedic age, cattle was the wealth, whereas in later Vedic age, land was the wealth. And this brought various changes in them. So this could be introduction. Introduction should be as encapsulating as possible so that the examiner should understand that you are aware of the core concept of the topic. So simple social and economic changes. What I do in class, so I could show you, although I'll discuss the answer obviously, is to have this. This is a table which I generally share with the class. I'll give it and it will be put on the video itself. So for you to see, I don't know how much of this is visible. So you could see there should be a table. And in that table we should have Rig Vedic age, time period, literature, and further. So around 27 to 28 points I have written, which generally I give in class so that this should be on the tips of students. Rig Vedic to later Vedic age should be on your tips. So I am discussing some of them, socio-economic, everything. So introduction is just that these Rig Vedic age people, although Max Muller started it from 1200 BC, but A.L. Basham, R.S. Sharma, they start from 1500. In later Vedic age, from 1000 to 600 BC. So first, some direct facts and then how they led to the change in situation. So they were wandering people. They settled at the end. At the end of later Vedic age, they started settling. They are properly settled. That's why you will see that their unit was Jan, Vish, Gram, Kul. And some Kul, when they wander together, it was called Toli or Tola. Even today in Gram, in northern India, you must have heard, in the group of or the colony of the Gram is still called Tola. And when they wander together, Gram used to steal each other's cattle, cow and buffaloes. They used to fight. It is called Sangram. Ladte the aapas mein. So they were wandering people, whereas they are settled people. They were wandering, so they were largely pastoral. Cattle was the wealth, cow rearing. They were agrarian. Here main wealth is cattle. Cattle is the wealth. Here main wealth is, obviously cattle remain the wealth, but main wealth became land. So land became the wealth. Then these people, they call their unit of polity as Jan. Jan means people. So their people were the political unit. Here Jan settled at a place where Jan put its feet. It's called Janpad. Janpad means where the feet of the Jan falls. Territory हो गई है. In this Rig Vedic age. Hundreds of differences. In Rig Vedic age, some there are similarities also, both were patrilineal. First, let's focus on the economic issues only. They live a wandering life. Land is the unit. Tribal society. Rural society. Village based. Then social changes. So when men wander, if a group of 100 families are wandering together without the settled houses, although it's not, they do not have houses, wandering doesn't mean every day they wander. Wandering means for 2 months they will stay at a place, their cattle will eat the crop, then they will move. Or they will do some primitive agriculture here and there. They will stay at a place for 1 year, 2 years, and then they will wander. So main mode is wandering. When main mode is wandering, you can't keep women subordinated. The reason is, if women is not confined inside the houses, she is also wandering. So obviously she will talk to others, she will help others. She will also be part visible in society. That's why here society was not housed based. It's communal living, joint living. For example, we are trekking, 50 people trekking together. So no matter how much house you try to make, you will have to live jointly. Here, house-based living, settled houses. When living is house-based, so the first casualty of this house-based living is obviously the women. So here we will see good position of women. Here, because of the house-based living, women can be confined. Declining position. Position of women. Position of women from Rig Vedic age till 19th century has a constant drop, without exception. Every other age, the position of women further falls. So Rig Vedic, Later Vedic age. The position of women further falls. In a tribal society where milk is the main product, you can't store milk. Milk is not storable. Even if you have 100 liters of milk, you are rich only for 1 day because no refrigeration. So poor surplus or no surplus. I am using the extreme word because students generally get confused by perhaps or maybe. So no surplus. Here they have surplus. It is an economic feature, but chalo, I am just making organic story. So no surplus there, agriculture. This क्या होता है, jaw, that millet, wheat, rice also appeared later. So that is more storable. Grains are more storable. Cattle wealth is less storable. So surplus. When surplus, to hierarchies. No hierarchy or low hierarchy. Society is not hierarchical. Here it started becoming hierarchical. So hierarchies appeared because the wealth is now storable. The rich will store the wealth. And not only he will store the wealth, he will use this wealth to deploy the labor. Further labor will be deployed with the help of the grain he will store. So that became hierarchical. In this hierarchy, here Varna system was fluid. Fluid Varna system. By birth. Here, by profession. Rigid in comparison. Varna system by birth. In entire Rig Veda, I think I am going right. हाँ Rig Veda ही है ना. हाँ Rig Veda ठीक है. I thought कि I am not going wrong. हाँ. तो in Rig Veda, entire Rig Veda, this term Brahman, Kshatriya, Kshatriya तो खैर there is no term of Kshatriya. Rajan is the word. Brahman, Rajan, Vaishya and Shudra is used only once at only one sukt. And in all likelihood, that sukt is perhaps added later than Rig Vedic age. That is 10th mandal of Rig Veda, Purush Sukt. So that is the only place where we find the word Brahman. Let's say Kshatriya, where Rajan hai, Vaishya and Shudra. So here, fourfold Varna system is largely absent. No fourfold Varna system. Varna means color. I am not here to discuss this. I am told that I should not waste my time in discussing the subject. I should stick to the answer. So that's why I am not discussing a lot. But Varna was twofold first. That's why Varna means color. Later it became threefold. Threefold means rulers, priests and commoners. Then in the commoners, when hierarchy appeared on the base of wealth, then among the commoners, hierarchy resulted in two. So earlier only twofold, fair and fair. Then threefold, ruler, priest and commoners. And when the surplus appeared, the fourfold. So no fourfold Varna system. Here properly fourfold Varna system. In Rig Vedic age, all these there are many similarities. Pottery both is PGW, trade both is largely barter. So that's why no further difference. I don't think a lot of things is to be discussed. So these are some 8 to 10 points I think I have written. One, two, three, four, five, six, 7, 8. So 12, 13 points I have written. So I'll share this table with you. It has 28 to 30 points or 25, 26, I don't remember exactly. So difference between Rig Vedic and Later Vedic age. So that's the table. Please consult the table. And if you would wish, if you would, obviously I will, because how you will give me the feedback. So, although if it is the answer or session seen by the students only, so you already may have. But if it is by others, so I'll share this table also. It is the difference between Rig Veda, Later Veda and Mahajanpadej also. So Mahajanpadej also have all these differences. So there is a third part of the table, third column of the table, where all the 27, 28 things are discussed in Mahajanpadej also. So this is the table of Rig Veda versus Later Veda, and this is the table of Rig Veda, Later Veda and Mahajanpadej. Because in future they may ask, because Vedic age is asked constantly, regularly. The most regular thing they ask is Vedic age. Last year they asked how Vedic age is the basis of present day. So many of these things, even today we have, especially the social factors. So this is the difference between Rig Veda and Later Vedic age. And a lot of it is, I have discussed, I think. So this is what question number 1. Question number 2. Estimate the contribution of Pallav of Kanchi for the development of art and literature of South India. So the question is about Pallav dynasty. The dating of Pallav dynasty are generally from 3rd century started, because obviously Samudragupta went south. Kadamba dynasty also mentioned Pallav. So we start Pallav from 3rd or 4th century AD till 10th century AD. But the proper Pallav age starts at the end of 6th, late 6th century. Singha Vishnu to 10th century AD. This is the proper historical Pallav age, about which we have a lot of literature, about which we have a lot of art forms, about which we have everything. Although Pallav are considered, but because this period is known as the Kalbhara or Kalpira interregnum. Spelling is Kalbhara, but it is read as Kalpira interregnum. So this is anti-Brahmanic period. and also it was anti-Pallav, anti-Pandya, anti-Chalukya. So why I am saying this ki this is a tribe, it's a tribe, Kalpira is a tribe, which for 2 centuries, 4th to 6th century, expelled Pallav, defeated Pallav, and this Kalpiras they have expelled Brahmins also. That's why when Pallav came back, so these Brahmanic Hinduism and Pallav, they had a very strong symbiosis among them. So that's why this Pallav age is a revivalist age. A lot of Sanskrit literature developed. Obviously Tamil also. This is the age of temple building. This is the age of literature. No, sorry, literature to be written, sorry. Sculpture, bronze sculpture. One of the oldest paintings, Sittanavasal painting. Temples, rock cut also, and freestanding also. And that is the beginning of Dravid temple architecture. The bronze sculpture, painting, literature, temples, all of this was started by Pallav dynasty. And that's why they are the pioneers of southern India. They are the one who started the southern Indian temple architecture. The earliest bronze sculpture. Somskand, Shiv and family. Nataraj, Tandav, dancing Shiv, which is even kept in the CERN laboratory. All this was started by Pallav age. So the explanation of this revivalism, and most important thing, most important thing among Pallav, this all is secondary. The most important is the southern bhakti. Kanchi was the center of southern bhakti. Many to even claim that Shankaracharya was patronized by Pallav and Shankaracharya started his march northwards, which turned the entire religion of northern India upside down, on its head. So southern bhakti. Shaiv and Vaishnav. Shaiv Nainar. Vaishnav Alavar. Turned the entire religion, the most dominant religious wave ever produced in this country is the Bhakti movement, which started in southern India, later reached northern India by 6 main acharya, and those 6 main acharya have revived the Bhakti. And Bhakti is the most emotional and the strongest form of religion, beyond the logic, beyond the common sense. Even if my God is defeated, even if my temple is destroyed, even everything is done, still I love my God. Love is the basis of religion. So that is started under Pallav. And I don't think GS students should know this. Many serious scholars think that this love for the God has root in this defeat. Southern India still remember this tribe coming and defeating them. That's why in that Bahubali movie also that tribesmen come and threaten the civilization. So almost at the same way, Pallav is the age of revivalism. And they also exported, they had their relations in Southeast Asia, so exported Indian culture to Southeast Asia, which further prospered under Chol Empire. So that is what Pallav's contribution is. Some examples I am giving, but that will be too discussed, too detailed. Kuch example mein I am quoting, not take a lot of time. So just showing some things for ease. Writing to obviously will do. So Pallavs have started one of the earliest cave architecture. Ye Mamandur caves, you could see. These are the pillar based. These are called pillar drops. This is the square end. This is Pattu, which is octagonal at center. This is called mandap. These caves are called mandap. This mandap will later become the outer part of temple architecture. So these are the Mamandur caves. Villupuram, near Pondicherry. These are Mandagapattu caves. So it is the earliest architecture. Here you could see Dwarpal. So temple guards who are made outside the caves. Later these temple guards will go outside the temple architecture. If ever you will see Gopuram, so Gopuram is full of the Dwarpal, the guardian deities. These Dwarpal in southern India started by Pallav Empire. Obviously these caves have the mark of Buddhist caves in front of it, but still. So these are the cave architecture. So what Pallav started? Rock-cut caves in Dravid temple architecture. Dwarpal in the temple architecture. And these caves are called mandap. And later outside temple, the outside garbhagriha, where people, mandap means for mandali to come and congregate. Mandali lagate hain jahan. People come and they sing and dance. So these are the two things done by Pallav. Later, Pallav temples in Mamallapuram. So these are the earliest Pallav. Pehle to caves of Mamallapuram. So many things, I don't want to show all of them. These are the caves. Here you could see what Pallav did. They added Vyal, V-Y-A-L, Vyal. So what is Vyal? Vyal are the animals which are made in the walls of the temples. Not Dwarpal, but the animals. And Pallav famous Vyal are loin Vyal. I don't have the time to show, but in Chol you will see the loin Vyal will continue. And Vijayanagar will make the horse Vyal. So Vyal of Vijayanagar were horse, Vyal of Chol were loin, and Vyal of Pallav were also lion. So these are the loin pillars. So the simple caves of earlier time now gave up way in Pallav age to this loin Vyal. Other things are same. And here you could see, I don't want to discuss this. It is inspired by Amravati, so you could see the Chaitya arches made here also. Then next thing Pallav made are Pancharath temple. Proper Dravid style. First let me show you what is Dravid style. So Pallav started the Dravid temple architecture, and Dravid temple architecture means a pyramid and a huge stone and a small stone. This is the signature of Dravid temple architecture. Whereas the northern temples have the curve, then the disc, then there is a stone. Shikhar, Amalak, Kalash. Pallav started Viman, Kalash. Viman, Shikhar, Kalash. Northern Gupta style temple called this Shikhar. They started putting Shikhar on Viman. So this is Dravid temple architecture. Started by Pallav. If I have to show you, so let's come outside to Pancharath temple. This is that. This is that Pancharath temple. Here you could see Vyal. You could see Dwarpal continued. But this is that enormous Shikhar, which they now put on the Viman, pyramidal Viman. Obviously decorated Viman. And here they were planning to make some finial, but it is unfinished. So finial will come later. Kalash yahan pe nahi hai. Kalash on top is not visible. I'll show you Kalash. Let's leave many photos. So these are the, and for prelims, just let me tell you, this Mamallapuram is also called 7 pagodas. 7 pagodas are the name of Mamallapuram. Later, this is Mamallapuram temple, Shore temple. They are the proper mature Dravid style. Here you could see the proper mature pyramid, Shikhar and Kalash. Viman, Shikhar, Kalash. This is the signature Dravid style. This is Somskand. Various places you will see Shiv with his children and wife. It is called Somskand style, started by Pallav. These are the shore temple. It is called. ये तो theory हो जाएगी. I don't want to. I'm told not to discuss theory, but only to stick to the topic. So I'm sticking to the topic. Viman, Shikhar and Kalash. So this is the signature Dravid temple architecture. And these shore temples are also called Rath temple because outside this you could find the animals. So it's like animals are pulling the chariot. This is the proper temple. Later, further Pallav developed. One more feature they added into Dravid style. Entire Dravid style was started by Pallav. Chol temples are built on the Pallav temple architecture. Later, they have made these temples. This is the mandap they added. And far away from mandap, they made Gopuram also. This gateway is called Gopuram. So adding Gopuram in the temple. This is temple. This is outside wall Chaultri. They added a gateway here. This shows, and these has the rooms and vaults. This shows how temple became the center of life. So this is mandap, Mahamandap, Vahan mandap, or multiple single mandap. First temple to have mandap in it. First temple to have proper mandap and Gopuram. And this outside Chaultri. इसको चौल बोलते हैं, चौल और चावड़ी. And that's why in Mumbai this type of houses are still called चावड़ी or चौल. And a path for people to circumnavigate, this is called Parakram. All this style is developed by Pallav. Pallav are the pioneers of temple architecture. If you see, the earliest Kanchi temple they have made, Kanchipuram, Kailash Nathar. See this Kailash Nathar temple, Kanchipuram. Viman, Shikhar, Kalash. This is the outer wall and this is the Gopuram they have made. And here you could see it is inspired by the wooden architecture, roof and the Chaitya arch. So this is Gopuram gateway and these walls. It shows temples now have a lot of wealth. This is the Parakram on which you could walk. And famous the lion Vyal. Vyal is the feature of Dravid temple architecture. So many Vyal. Gopuram. Obviously, you can't put these photos in exam just for the explanation. Later there, one of the last Pallav temple is Vaikunt Perumal. Exactly the Dravid style temple. Vaikunt Perumal. Very mature Vyal and these galleries. So this is about their architecture. After architecture, if you will come to paintings, so almost destroyed, damaged fresco mural from Ajanta. I don't have the time to explain all this, but from Ajanta the painting came to Amravati, and from Amravati they passed on to Pallav, and Pallav passed on their paintings to Pandey and Chol. So the southern painting, Indian painting architecture, painting culture appeared from Pallav. They have a lot of features of their painting. Features of Pallav paintings. So they are fresco murals. Fresco painting after a plaster. Wall painting mural. Themes of Jainism. Natural colors, green and red. Almost damaged paintings. So one lotus coming out, a lot of lotus coming out and people picking. Jain monks and various animals are picking them. Wall paintings, main feature of these paintings. They became the basis of southern Indian painting. If I show you Ajanta painting, it will take a lot of time, so I'm not showing. Just search Ajanta paintings, you will find how Ajanta paintings inspired the paintings of Pallav age. So they are the pioneers of painting. This Jain, Parshvanath, you could see the snake. These are the Sittanavasal paintings, engravings. These are those paintings. You could see the lotus are coming and people are picking those lotus. 1936 they were renovated. This white plaster, someone 1000 years old painting, so someone in 17th, 18th century painted, whitewash it. So later it was chemically removed and now these paintings survive. So green and red are the main colors. They are fresco murals. On the plastered wall these paintings are done. Sittanavasal painting. Here you could see exactly like Ajanta, exactly like Ajanta. If I show you Ajanta painting, it is 100% like this. So they are the pioneers of paintings. You could see Jainism, red and green. Let me show you one Ajanta painting also within a minute. Why not to show? So under Gupta Empire, paintings, Ajanta paintings. If I have to show you some Ajanta paintings similar to them, are these paintings. So here you could see red outline, white plaster, green and red are the colors. These are the Persians in Ajanta. So look at these Ajanta paintings. So there are many, but let's leave it. Look at these Ajanta paintings and jump to Pallav paintings. Sittanavasal Jain caves. So here you could see a lot of similarity. Red outline merging in the body color, white paint plaster. So these are Sittanavasal paintings. So they are the pioneers of paintings also. Then bronze sculpture. So if I have to make the bronze sculpture, so generally bronze sculpture is on a platform. Platform either have the hooks, either have the holes or have the hooks. Because the purpose of these bronze statues, Pallav are the pioneers of bronze statue in southern India. So they take the wooden sticks, they put in these holes, put the sticks on the shoulder and roam in the city. It's called yatra. Because in Bhakti movement, gods are taken to the people also. So Brahman will worship Shiv inside the Shivling worship hai, whereas the people will worship the statue form of Shiv. So these statues are made, these are called Utsav Murti, made of alloy called Panch Lobby. I'll show you that alloy. So then a human is made, thin body, bodies are thin. So those who have attended the class may remember it is exactly like Amravati, so bodies are thin. They are doing some movement. Without, it means they are doing something, but the surrounding is missing. For example, a woman is standing like this. It means she is resting her hand, but that thing is missing. Only human bodies, but they show the surrounding. So movement, depicting the surroundings. Sharp nose, almond eyes, which is a feature of Amravati also. Then a long headgear. Facial expression, not very expressive. And other men and women height difference, height of male and female. So these are the features. I don't want to teach here. It will take 5 more minutes. So Pallav sculpture, if you see Pallav sculpture, so he is resting his hand on something. Platform has the hole, thin body, head knot, sharp nose, not very expressive head knot. It is called Achaman Mudra, holding the wish. Achaman, he is holding the pyala of that wish, that cup of the halal wish, poison, but that is not visible. Holding the snake. these statues are, this is Panch Law by which the alloy available on internet, Amazon's ki hai photo. So these are the 5 things which are merged. They started the sculpture. Southern Indian sculpture was started by them. So these are the Nataraj, earliest Nataraj. So earliest Nataraj in Southern India was started by Pallav. So this is about their architecture, art. Then in literature, Pallav largely focus. Bhakti to obviously, Nayanar Alwar. In literature, main focus of Pallav was Sanskrit. Sanskrit. So Pallav king Mahendra Varman, son of Singh Vishnu, he wrote Matta Vilas Prahsan. No time to tell the story, but I would love to tell. It is about a satire on tantrics. So Matta Vilas Prahsan was written in Sanskrit by Mahendra Varman himself. Then he wrote Bhagavat Ajivikya, that is Ajivak, or it's about a story of Bhagavatism. So not very well versed because don't have a story. It is about Bhagavat, Vishnu. Here the story is. Then Mahendra Varman. Then one great poet of Chalukya Empire reached Pallav capital. His name was Bharavi. One descendant of Bharavi or friend of Bharavi was Dandi. And Dandi was in Pallav court. He lived in the court of Pallav. Language, Sanskrit. He wrote one of the most interesting books. So interesting, so liberal. If I generally do not tell the story in class, whenever I teach this part of the story, I don't tell the story in class. It is so liberal. It is about the 10 princes, the Shkumar Charit. So these are the 10 princes who tell their story. In Sarg 1, part 1, they tell their story. And obviously they are princes, so they are not very men of great character. So various stories which are not very moral. But it shows the liberty of our society. As a Khajuraho temple sculpture, it looks unbelievable that we live in a society which was so liberal. So this Das Kumar Charit also tells. Then next, he wrote about that Avanti Kumari, Avanti Sundari Katha. Not very famous. It is so, very recently people thought it is of Dandi. So Avanti Sundari Katha. Then he wrote one academic book, not very well versed. Academic hai to no story, Kavya Darsh. So Kavya Darsh is having the theories of Kavya. He wrote in prose, not in poem. Prose, Gadya likhte the. So Dandi was famous for Gadya. So these are the famous Sanskrit works of Pallav age. Then Tamil works. Pioneers of Tamil. After Sangam age, the restart of Tamil literature. Because for Kalpiras we have nothing. 2 centuries of nothing in southern India. We call it Kalpira interregnum. After that, the Tamil literature again came to life. Southern Bhakti. It will take barely 5 minutes. Southern Bhakti. So, Alwar. Alwar means Vaishnav. Their books are called Divya Prabandh. Divya Prabandh. And Nayanar or Shiv. Nayanar means the third eye of Shiv. And the third eye of Shiv, when worshipped without any form, it is formless third eye, it is called Virupaksh. One Virupaksh temple is in Kanchi, sorry, one Virupaksha temple is in Pattadakkal and one Virupaksha temple famously is in Hampi. So two Virupaksha temple. So when Shiva is worshipped without any formless, only third eye, it is called Virupaksha, Hampi and Pattadakkal. And this is worship of third eye of Shiva. So generally by eye of Shiva, various temple, various sects are Nayanar. So Nayanar books are called Tirumurai. So these are written a lot. Shaiva and Vaishnava Bhakti. 63 Nayanar saints. Their stories will be written in Chol age, which also the question came. Then one famous Tamil author, Perundevar. Peru means big, Periya. Dev god, Perundevar. So, Perundevar wrote a Tamil commentary of Mahabharata. So, that Tamil commentary of Mahabharata is called Bharat. Mahabharata to Bharat. Venba. Venba is a genre of Tamil poems. So Bharat Venba is a Tamil commentary of Mahabharata. So Perundevar was in Pallav age and he wrote a Tamil commentary on Mahabharata. वैसे तो एक in Tamil there are various people with the same name. It's no guarantee he lived in Pallav age, no guarantee. But generally there are multiple, जैसे in Sanskrit you will find many people with the name Dhanvantari. So hundreds of at least 20 Dhanvantari are there. King's name Vikramaditya. Every age you will find king name Vikramaditya. So likewise, Kalandar or Kalandanar. So Kalandar is a poet. Poet, nahi author. He wrote a book of grammar called Kalandam. Generally it is the style. In southern India, poets generally add M in their last letter in the grammar books. One earliest Tamil grammar which is lost, first Sangam mein likhi gayi thi. Agatyar. Agatyar. Agastya Rishi wrote. Second book of Tamil grammar also written in Sangam. Nothing coming in brain. Second book written in Tamil grammar was, it is the first book, surviving book. So after Agatyar it is, chalo I'll remember, so I'll tell. This is about the literature, Tolkappiyam. Second book is Tolkappiyam, written by Tolkappiyar. So generally this adding M in the name of book, the author replaces his last word. Agastya Rishi added R, call it Agatyar. Tolkappiyar added M, call it Tolkappiyam. Likewise in the same style, Kalandar added the M and call his book Kalandam. So Kalandam is the book. All this is the work of academics also. Kanchi University. Kanchipuram was the seat of capital of Pallav Empire and their seat of education is called Kanchi University. And from this Kanchi University, one of the most famous alumni of this was Dharmapal, who later became the vice chancellor or the head of Nalanda University. So the head of Nalanda University studied in Kanchi University. That tells a lot about the Kanchi University. So that was also patronized by Pallav Empire. Huensang also mentions the education of Pallav Empire. So Pallav have so many contributions in southern India. If I have to describe those contributions, I will have to need at least 2 to 3 hours. It takes the entire class to describe the achievements of not only Pallav's achievement but their contribution to the southern Indian culture. In the memory of southern Indian culture, Sangam age still rules, memory. But no material of Sangam age generally survives. Sangam age literature survives, their practice survives. Whatever today you see Dravid culture, that was shaped by Pallav. जैसे in the memory of India, when we talk about republic, so we remember Vedic age, we remember our Gurukuls, but the entire administrative system was created by British. That's a bitter truth of this country. The administrative system starts with British. In our polity book, first act is regulating act. Likewise, Tamil culture or Dravid culture feels pride on Sangam age. But the entire material culture which is seen with proof developed under Pallav Empire. So these are the Pallav who developed the entire Dravid culture. ठीक है, तो that was the contribution of Pallav, है ना, तो contribution of Pallav in Dravid or Southern India. ठीक है, that was the second question. Next question I have to discuss is question number 11. It asks, though the great Chol are no more yet, ठीक है, their name is still remembered with great pride because of their highest achievements in the domain of art and architecture. Comment. अच्छा, art and architecture. Literature also we could include. I'll tell some literature. I don't think it is needed, but basically UPSC ka asked, or this time they asked comparative questions like Rig Vedic age. Rig Vedic age is the basis of later Vedic age. Just we have discussed the question. Question number 1. Likewise in Dravid culture, Pallav age is the basis of Chol age. They could have asked it in the two separate questions, as they have asked compare Rig Vedic, later Vedic. They would have asked us to compare Pallav or Chol, or they could have made 4 questions. Describe Rig Vedic separately, later Vedic separately, Pallav separately, Chol separately. So like Rig Vedic age was precursor of later Vedic age, Pallav age is the precursor of Chol age. So let's see the contribution of Chol. So Chol are the one who took the Dravid culture to its magnanimity. And generally you will see Chol are more remembered in southern regions than Pallav, because Chol have gave the Tamil language its place not as subordinate of Sanskrit. Under Pallav Empire you will see Tamil was almost subordinated to the Sanskrit. Today Hindi or our local languages, Tamil, Telugu, are subordinated to English. English is the language which everyone likes to speak, everyone is taught or wants to talk. In Pallav age, Sanskrit language has that space. Tamil was a sort of subordinate language. Under Chol, Tamil language increased and got its place. Apart from that, in the temples, whatever Pallav started, Pallav temples, Chol took it to its peak. Bronze sculpture, Pallav bronze. Chol took it to its peak. Caves though Chol did not made a lot. Paintings also, similar paintings, exactly same. If I'll show you the Chol painting, you can't even guess it is Chol or Pallav. Exactly those red lines on the white background, yellowish white background. So paintings also. Sculpture, literature, Sanskrit mainly, Tamil also, Chol, Tamil mainly, Sanskrit also. Southeast Asia, Pallav took Indian culture to Southeast Asia by friendship. They took it by conquest. At Malacca, Chol made a city which is named on their emblem Singh, Singhalpuri, which is called Singapore. All the Dravid temple architecture, Angkor Wat is one of the largest Dravid temple in the world, or largest temple in the world. That is taken by Chol. So Chol are the one who conquered till Southeast Asia. And Bay of Bengal was just like the pond for Chol. Pond means just their own territory. So they, like Roman Empire was surrounding the Mediterranean Sea, Mediterranean was the property of Romans. Likewise, Bay of Bengal became almost the property of Chol. And their king Rajendra conquered till Bengal, Ganga river, called himself Ganga-i-Kond. So whatever Pallav did, Chol took it to its peak. So that's how Chol continued whatever Pallav started. Some example I am giving you in the same way ki how whatever the largest temple, tallest temple made in India is made by Chol, Dravid style. So if you see the early, all Dravid, all features I have discussed. So if you see the early Chol temples, where we have Chol Empire. So earliest Chol is these are the Dwarpal. So it is created by Vijayalaya Choleshwaram temple. So this is Dwarpal. You could see this Dwarpal is much more elaborate, much more decorative than the Pallav Dwarpal. This is the temple, earliest temple of Chol. Exactly Pallav. Viman, Shikhar and a small Kalash. And the Mandap. Whatever Pallav did, Chol continued. नहीं ये पल्लव है, don't worry. So that is Vijayalaya Choleshwaram temple. After that, Varadaraj Perumal temple, exactly in Dravid style. So Chol increased the size of it. Viman, Shikhar, Kalash, and the Mandap. And look at the Gopuram now. So it is no longer that humble Gopuram of Pallav age. These Gopuram are much bigger in size. But then, Raj Chol has created the biggest temple of its time. 73 meter, as tall as Qutub Minar, 73 meter, as tall as Taj Mahal, 73 meter. It has no base. This temple is simply kept on the ground for last 1000 years. It has no foundation, no base. It is simply kept. If you have power enough, you could drag it even. Metamorphically, not really. Means it is kept on the ground. You could see it has 2 Gopuram now. This shows ki how many rooms more they need. They need an outer Parakram, outer Chaultri. So 2 Gopurams. Look at this 86 ton, 73 meter high. And look at the size of this Shikhar. And this is Viman, tallest temple. So same flat Mandap. Only the platform on which the temple is, this platform is 2-story high. 2-story high platform on which this temple is. These are the Narsingh statues. So you could see the sculpture with the same headgear, sharp nose, thin bodies. You see Narsingh is breaking the hand. The hand is already broken. You could see it's twisted on the wrong side. So that is already Chol had made it enormous. This is the temple. Raj temple or Brihadeshwar temple. These are the 2 Gopurams. Look at the size of Gopuram. So much higher than whatever. Even the Nandi is one of the biggest. These are the Gopurams. These are Dwarpal. Now look at the size of Dwarpal. Compare the size of human and Dwarpal. So 20 feet high Dwarpal. So whatever Pallav created, Chol did the same, but in an enormous size. There is a question also once UPSC asked, कि Chol started like giants but finished like jewelers. So when they conceive very great, huge, enormous statues. But when they finish in jeweler style. So these all are the platforms. This is the Tamil inscriptions on Brihadeshwar temple. So these all are Tamil inscriptions. So there are Sanskrit inscriptions also. No one is saying they rejected Sanskrit, but yes. So in their coins they write Devanagari. Coin में तो Devanagari लिखा, उत्तम चोल, आधा त जैसे लिखते हैं ऊ. But Tamil language is what they patronized more than Pallav. These are the enormous Gopurams created. You could see the enormous size of Nandi. And look at these Dwarpal. Look at the size of the same Dwarpal. Whatever Pallav did, Chol did exactly same. Everything same. But as famously it is said कि Raj Chol, this Rajeshwaran temple was cursed temple. Curse हो गया इसमें. So leave it. So cursed temple. So because of this curse of this temple, the son of Raj has to change the capital. Why he changed the capital? There are materialistic theories also. In GS, I don't want to discuss those materialistic theories. That's a segmentary state theory. These temples were also the palaces, tax collection centers. So they changed their capital to consolidate their rule further. So son of Raj Chol, story says that because of this temple, this Raj was cursed. So son Rajendra changed the capital. And he did not make the temple as big. But exact copy of Brihadeshwar, which is exact copy of Pallav. So this is the Rajeshwaran temple. You could see exactly same. But no investment on Gopuram. Even the size is much less. Even the plan is much simple. But yes, temple is almost similar. Many times in internet, people put the photo of this Gangai Kond Cholpuram temple under the name of Brihadeshwar temple. So you could see much difference. If you clearly see it, so much difference. But yes, plan is almost same. Dwarpals are same. So Chol took Dravid culture to its peak. But yes, this is Gopuram. One side Gopuram, outer Gopuram. So outer Gopuram is still not very big, but yes, enough big. So this is Gangai Kond Cholpuram temple. Then I think Parantak or Kulottung have made the last one, Airavateshwar temple. This temple is the pinnacle of the not size ka architecture's pinnacle is to Brihadeshwar, but the detailing of his sculpture is best in Airavateshwar. Look at this. Look at this chariot. It's called Agramandap. So here look at the sculpture. The detailing are the best. Best among the Chol, best among the Dravid. In Vesar, I should not give my statement for the best, but if you really want to see even the more detailed version of the sculpture, so Hoysal dynasties, Dwar Samudra, their capital, black stone. So that is further more detailed, but you have to give credit to them because, or you have to give credit to Chol because it is 2 centuries before that. So this is one of the most detailed sculpture making. So size is not very enormous, but the sculpture are the most detailed. Look at these sculptures. So these are Rath style. Compare this Rath. Rewind the video if you could. Compare these Rath with the Pallav animals. So Pallav animals in Pancharath temple, which I have shown you, just you could identify they are the animals. But look at these Rath. How enormously carved it is. How clearly carved it is. So Chol have completed like jewelers. So their giant size is visible in Brihadeshwar and their details of jewelry is visible in this Airavateshwar temple. UNESCO has declared Brihadeshwar, Gangai Kond Cholpuram and Airavateshwar as the living monuments. They are the living monuments. Look at the detail. Kya baat. So this is what Airavateshwar temple. All the basics are same. Gopuram, Mandap, platforms, Dwarpal. These are not Dwarpal. Viman, Shikhar, Kalash, sab wahi hai. Even Mandap is flat. But the detailing is much, much better. This is the Chol architecture. Left anything? Acha, bronze we have left. So Chol, their bronze sculpture, exact development of Pallav. Chol sculpture, exact development of Pallav. Whatever Pallav did, Chol continued, even the Nataraj. So look at the platform, look at these holes to put the stick Utsav Murti. She is holding a flower in her hand, thin body, sharp nose, almond eyes, less expression on the face, head knot. So if you rewind and see Pallav and Chol statues side by side, you can't even find, and their further development is Vijayanagar, which obviously I'm not discussing here. So look at the fabric, the shine on the statue, the finish, smoother bodies. So in comparison to Pallav, smoother bodies. Much better face, much more detailed ears. You could see the effect of Buddhist architecture on this platform. These are the whole Utsav Murtis. He's standing like, so that's what I was talking about in Pallav, but here clearly you could see. Men and women body sizes are very different. So Chol continued whatever Pallav did. Raj Chol with his queen. Ye Som Skand style. Skand means son of Kartikeya, son of Shiv. Shiv and Parvati. Here you could see the holes to put the bamboo stick. So this is Bhakti movement. They are taken outside. Yatra. Nataraj. Almond eyes, not clearly almond hair, but sharp nose, not very expressive faces. Headgear. So Chol statues are better. Bronze statues are better. Then paintings. Almost similar in Brideshwar temple. Abhi recently, 50-60 years ago, these paintings are discovered. So below the court. So just look at these paintings. Almost similar. Red and green on the white background. So look at this painting. So white background, fresco murals. Here also head not almost similar. He is Raj Chol with his guru. The paintings also they developed. Although literature is not asked, literature कोई पूछा तो नहीं गया है, but still, Tamil literature they have. I don't know you could write it or not, but just 2 minutes more. So Tamil literature. So out of 5 Tamil epics, 3 are perhaps written during Chol period. Don't have time to tell the story, interesting stories. One is Sivak Chintamani, written by Tirut Katevar. Kundal Kesi, written by Nath Kutanar and Valayapati. So these 3 epics, 3 great epics. If I have to show you interestingly, the story of Bahubali movies on Sivak Chintamani. Agar Sangam age, you could see. So Aim Peru Kapiam 5, Periya, Aim 5 Kapiam. This Bahubali story is based on Sivak Chintamani, word by word exact. So it is wrongly written Sivak Chintamani. So out of 5 epics of Tamil, Shilappadigaram, Mani Meghalai, Sangam age, 3 are in Chol age. Then further Tamil literature, Periya Puranam is written. Periya Puranam is the biography of 63 Nayanar saints. So that is written by Secular. Secular was a secular name. So the word is Secular. So Secular wrote Periya Puranam, 63 biographies. I don't think it is asked. There is one famous Ot Kutar. Ot Kutar wrote the March of 3 Kings. One is Raj Rajanula. Raj Rajanula. Raj Ula means march. So victory of Raj Rajanula. One is Kulotungula. Kulotung Chol's victory over Kaling. Ula means the march, walk off, walk, march bhi nahi, walk, and a Vikram Cholanula. You should come here. So just saying these are the, Ula means walking, walk of the king. So these are the 3 victory books which are written. Then the most famous Chol work, not most famous, I find it very famous, Kamman Ramayana. Kamman Ramayana, which is not called Kamman Ramayana. book is Ramavataram. So Ramavataram written by Kamban. You must have heard given there was one Shudra Shambuk who read the Ved, so Bhagwan Ram went and killed Shambuk. That story is found only in Ramavataram. And here Ram and Ayodhya is not a northern translation, it's just the Tamil culture. Even the things are Tamil. Ram and Ayodhya is shown just like a Tamil city. It's not a translation of northern India. It's not Saryu river. It is exactly described like some Tamil culture. Jaise some movies are description of Mahabharata. Mahabharata story put in modern times. Ek movie thi one Ranbir Kapoor ki. Forgotten the name. It was Mahabharat's retelling. So likewise, it is also a retelling of Tamil retelling of Ram's story. That is Ramavataram. So all this is the contribution of Chol in the question is achievements in domain of art. So one of the developed Vijayanagar bronze जैसे दिखाया था, later whatever the work is done. So if you see Vijayanagar sculpture, so Vijayanagar sculpture are nothing but continuation of Chol. Choli ka continuation hai. Whatever Chol did, just add 3 lines in the stomach and some more things. Vijayanagar is nothing but continuation of Chol. It is not even called an independent style. So it is continuation of Chol style. Their paintings further developed by Pandey. Their temples further developed. Gopuram became the feature of Pandey temples. You could see Meenakshi temple, only Gopuram. 16 Gopurams of Meenakshi temple. Srirangam temple famous for its Gopuram, city inside the temple. So they are the ones. If I have made Pallav somewhere, chalo, I don't remember where I have made. So Pallav temple were simply temple with one Gopuram. Chol made it much enormous, double Gopuram, much more rooms, much more taxation, much better social life. ठीक. So center of social life. So this is the contribution of Chol. It also will take a lot of time. So I have completed as brief as I could.
So I'll be discussing 3 questions. Question number 3. What were the events that led to the Quit India movement? Point out its results. It's a very straightforward question. A straightforward question, but the challenge is that there is a lot of information which has to be written in around 150 words. So there can be another interpretation to the question, that people might think that the question is about what were the factors responsible for the outbreak of or the beginning of Quit India movement. That is close, but here UPSC has clearly said that please, if you can, in a chronological manner, if you can list out the events. Events here also means the important developments, not only in India, but also outside India, because we know that the outbreak of Quit India movement was in many ways linked with the developments of Second World War. So let us try to understand that how should we write an answer to this question. Question number 3. What could be a very good introduction to this question, Quit India movement? It began in 1942, and it is said that although it was never formally suspended, but when in 1945 the arrested Congress leaders were released to participate in the Shimla talks, that is the Wavell plan, that can be called as the conclusion of the Quit India movement. Now, Quit India movement in many ways was an unprecedented Gandhian movement. It was a Gandhian movement because when the Quit India movement was launched on 8th August, formally when the Quit India resolution was adopted and declared, Gandhiji was declared as the leader of it. Quit India movement is unprecedented. Why? Because in Quit India movement we see unprecedented, or something that had not happened before, the level of violence on both sides. So we find that Quit India movement was in many ways, it was a radicalization of Indian politics or mass politics. So you can use these keywords. We will use these keywords to frame our introduction. So it symbolized a radicalization of mass politics. And not only radicalization here means that we see extreme of mass politics. There was a lot of violence that happened during Quit India movement by the masses. But still, what is surprising is that Gandhiji did not call off the movement. He in fact blamed the British repression or the use of brutal force responsible for the mass behavior. We see that there was unprecedented heroism and militancy by the masses. Even in the absence of central leadership, they did not fear and they carried out the movement at the grassroots level on their own. Quit India movement, we also see that it was in many ways a different Gandhian movement. So till now we all know that before Quit India movement, all the Gandhian movements were limited in nature. Gandhiji would start the movement with a certain objective, and then before the movement would die down, he would call off the movement. STS strategy. But again, historians have said that Quit India movement was not only a radicalization of mass politics, but it was a radicalization of Gandhian movement also. So these are the key words where we see that Gandhiji has clearly moved away from the struggle to the ultimate struggle, that is SV, struggle till victory is attained. That is why he gave a slogan, do or die. Gandhiji had said that this is the last struggle of my life. Gandhiji had told the British that leave India to God. If you cannot leave India to God, leave it to anarchy. But please leave India. Quit India movement in many ways was a true pan-India movement, because not only we see the movement in the British provinces, but for the first time, the princely states were also involved in the movement. It is unprecedented in all this. We are trying to understand what can be a very good introduction. And then we see there was brutal repression, or there was brutal use of force. British had never used force with such impunity. So we can frame an introduction by writing that the Quit India movement was a different movement in many ways, and you can use all these words. It symbolized radicalization of mass politics, unprecedented heroism and militancy. It was a movement in which Gandhiji moved from a limited movement to a movement without any restriction. He in fact endorsed and supported the violence, and he probably understood that masses are ready to handle violence. Quit India movement was a true pan-India movement in which the princely states were also involved, and the British tried to repress the movement after eliminating the top leadership by arresting them, by using all types of force. Even the aeroplanes were used to fire upon the masses. So this is one aspect of it. You can start with the introduction. Then you would say that Quit India movement, because now we'll come to the central demand. What were the events? So then you will say that Quit India movement, the launch of Quit India movement, which is also called as August Revolution. You can use these terms. Quit India movement was also called as Agast Kranti or August Revolution. Was the culmination of events after the beginning of World War II. So we will see what are the developments that happened after the outbreak of Second World War. Indian leadership was aware of the fact that it cannot be taken for granted like it was in World War I. When World War I started, Indians, without placing any condition, the Indian National Congress had supported the British war effort, but they did not get what they had demanded or expected. So when the Second World War started in September 1939, the Indian National Congress wanted the British to clarify that what is India going to get in return for supporting the British war efforts, and how the principle of democracy, because the Britishers said, the Allied powers said that we are fighting for democracy. It is a war between democracy versus Nazism, fascism. So the Congress Working Committee, which met at Wardha, asked this question, that how do you support this idea of democracy when you are denying to us? So we will see what were the events. We will not write everything. We will see that with the outbreak of Second World War, we will see that World War II will have a tremendous impact on Indian politics and the psychology of masses and the leaders. So with the outbreak of Second World War, we will have to start in this way. First of all, we see that the Congress ministers resigned. They resigned because they were disappointed. They resigned in the provinces. Now in this question, there are two ways of presenting this answer because it is a 150. So you can either come up in the form of bullets, that would be better. But after resigning, when this question emerged, when should we launch a mass movement or not, Gandhiji and Nehru was against the idea of launching a mass civil disobedience. Because Gandhiji said that first of all, the Allied cause was just. Second, this war, Second World War, is a conflict between Nazism, fascism versus democracy. And we support democracy. Subhash Chandra Bose believed that no, it is a war between imperial powers, capitalist powers. And what democracy are we talking about when it is being denied to India? So Subhash Chandra Bose wanted an immediate mass movement, but Gandhiji said no. Finally, amid all this tussle, we have to see that at the Ramgarh session, a resolution was passed. Ramgarh resolution, 1940, in which this session was presided by Maulana Abul Kalam Azad, and at this session, it was declared that CDM would be launched under Gandhian leadership whenever possible. Gandhiji will decide when to launch, and he was given the responsibility, or he was given the complete freedom to decide. Now, after this, we know that the Second World War started progressing. The Allied powers were on the back foot on multiple occasions, and whenever they were on the back foot, they would come up with some type of conciliation, some type of constitutional offer. One of that offer was the August offer, which came in the backdrop of fall of France and the I would say many British soldiers who were stranded in Dunkirk. In the response to August offer, individual satyagraha was launched. Again, a debate emerged when the August offer happened. But Gandhiji said that no, this is not the right time for a mass movement. So we have to write the second point, that when the August offer, we have to be very crisp, that in the event of fall of France and the difficult situation of British army in Dunkirk, it is a place in France, the individual satyagraha was launched. But the individual satyagraha was not very successful. The individual satyagraha, it elicited limited mass participation. So this is very important. It was a limited movement. Gandhiji has this habit, there is a knack of Gandhiji that before launching any full-fledged movement, he will launch an experimental movement to see whether the masses are ready for a larger movement or not. Like Rowlatt Satyagraha before NCM, like Bardoli Satyagraha before CDM. But this movement, masses were not absolutely clear about it. December 1940, January 1941. So, many within Indian National Congress were convinced that we need something bigger. Masses expect a greater action, not a limited movement. Still, Gandhiji said no. This is not the right time because the Congress organizational structure is weak, especially after the Tripuri rift or conflict between Subhash Chandra Bose and Gandhi. Hindu-Muslim unity is weak. Communal riots can happen. Masses are not ready. So, still there was I would say no clarity whether a movement would be launched. Then what happened? Then we see in Southeast Asia. So we are again going to understand. In Southeast Asia, first, fall of France, very important. In Indochina. And not only France fell, but the manner in which the French left the Vietnamese, Cambodians, that was an alarming thing for India, that if the Japanese come to India or if they enter on the Indian soil, then the Britishers would also not resist, they would just run away. And after the fall of France in Indochina and the manner of their evacuation, we see the Japanese even captured Malaya Peninsula, and Singapore. Not only this was about the rise of, or there was an imminent threat of Japanese invasion, but the news letters were coming from Southeast Asia about all type of atrocities being committed by the Japanese. There was a fear. What would happen? Who would take care of the defense of India in case the Japanese attack? So there was a change in mindset of people like Gandhi. Nehru was still not convinced. C. Rajagopalachari even wanted the Indian National Congress to support, but people like Achyut Patwardhan, Rajendra Prasad, Sardar Patel supported the idea that we should think about a mass movement, a larger movement, so that the defense of India is in the hands of Indians. There was a fear. There was a fear that the British Empire is going to collapse. And how do we know that? People had lost faith whether the British Empire will be able to withstand the Japanese aggression. People went to the post office, started withdrawing their deposits. People started withdrawing their savings in the banks. So there was a fear of, this is very important. After this, there was a fear of British collapse and imminent Japanese invasion, you can write. All types of news were coming up. Now, in the backdrop of this, the Cripps mission had arrived, March 1942. Cripps mission, with its own set of proposals, but we know that the Cripps mission or the Cripps proposals failed. Congress did not approve of whatever limited concessions the Cripps mission was offering. Gandhiji had called that the Cripps mission was like the post-dated check of a failing bank. So after the failure of the Cripps proposal, now it was clear that British have nothing more to offer constitutionally. Whatever has to be done, it has to be done by the Indian National Congress. So 2 weeks after this Cripps proposal, in March, April, 2 weeks after it, Gandhiji, it is important, he drafted a resolution. Gandhiji drafted a resolution for the immediate withdrawal of the British and also that we should resist the Japanese. Still, Nehru was not convinced. Finally, we find that on 14th July, this is important, on 14th July 1942, the Congress Working Committee adopted the Wardha Resolution, which gave a go-ahead that yes, this said that the time has come for immediate mass movement. And Gandhiji should lead it. It was until the very last moment that Nehru was convinced. C. Rajagopalachari later resigned with the outbreak of it. And finally, after a few weeks on 8th August 1942, at the Gowalia tank, the Quit India resolution was proclaimed in Bombay. This is the formal beginning of Quit India movement, in which they demanded the immediate transfer of power. They said that after the transfer of power, there should be a provisional government. You don't have to write everything, but you just have to say that it was the formal beginning of it. Gandhiji was declared the leader of Quit India movement, and he gave specific instructions to various sections, students, people in the princely states, zamindars, peasants, soldiers, all of them. So this was the formal beginning of Quit India movement. So here you have to write all these aspects. Now the question also says that point out to the result of Quit India movement. Now, to be honest, the objective of the Quit India movement was to get independence. The idea was that the Quit India movement would force the British to quit India, and the Indian, under the leadership of, or the Indian National Congress would assume the leadership of independent India. Now that impact was not achieved immediately, I would say. But during the Quit India movement, a number of developments happened which is going to shape the politics of India during 1945 to 47. So we will see what are those, that is what is the question about. So we can definitely say that the Quit India movement did not attain immediately. You have to write this line. It did not immediately attain its political objective. But you have to say that in many ways the Quit India movement was going to shape the Indian politics and the British orientation towards the future in India. So British will also try to reassess their situation. Quit India movement was an eye-opener movement. You don't have to write all this, but just for information I am telling you, because it is not possible in a 150-word answer to write everything. It was an eye-opener movement. British realized that the situation has drastically changed and they would start, I would say, planning for gradual withdrawal from India. We'll see. Now, during the Quit India movement, if you have to analyze, apart from the politics that was happening, mass politics, Congress politics, the British response, there was another, I would say, disturbing development that happened. That was the Karachi resolution of Muslim League. So you have to definitely mention it. In response to the Quit India resolution, the Karachi resolution of Muslim League came up with the idea of divide and quit. So it was an advance over the Lahore resolution of 1940, in which possibly for the first time the demand for a separate state for Muslims was made. Now when this divide and quit resolution or the declaration was made, it alarmed both the Indian National Congress and the Britishers. It pointed that the deadlock which has emerged between the Muslim League and the Indian National Congress over the sharing of power is not going to be resolved. So we find that this Karachi resolution, which was in many ways linked with the Quit India resolution, it was a response to it. This led to a number of efforts. So there were efforts towards reconciliation. So you have to write this aspect. So you would see that after the Quit India movement, the Indian politics will move in two directions. One, there will be discussions towards the transfer of power, to what extent the transfer of power will happen until the cabinet mission, which declared that we are going to give up power in every way to you. We are going to grant you complete independence. And on the other hand, an effort will be made, possibly too late, by the British and Indian National Congress also to reconcile the Muslim League. So we can definitely associate it with it. So we see that there are efforts to resolve the deadlock between Muslim League and INC. And what are the efforts? You can write just the name, Rajaji Formula, 1944, Desai-Liaquat Pact, 1945, and then the Wavell Plan. But we know that all these efforts failed. Because Muslim League was also aware of the fact that after the end of Quit India movement, the British would again go back to the negotiating table. So they wanted to use this occasion. They did not want to lose ground. Definitely the Quit India movement had established the fact that even in the absence of leadership, Congress and Gandhiji was the undisputed leader of Indian politics. So this was the fact. Second thing that we have to understand, that Quit India movement also resulted in erosion of the pillar of British rule in India. Very important. Bipan Chandra has written that the British rule in India was based on two pillars. One was the belief of many Indians, even the commoners, that the British are the Mai Baap of the Indians. The British rule in many ways is good for India. Yes, it is exploitative, but it is very good for us. Those who were part of the British army, police, bureaucracy, princely states, everybody and even the masses believed it. But the brutal repression, you have to write this, that the brutal repression, the ugly, naked use of force by the British, people began to question, even the loyalists, the liberals began to question whether the British actually believe in the rule of law. So we find that Quit India movement, you have to write this, the Quit India movement witnessed the ugly, naked use of force, and because of which there was a loyalty crisis. Many began to question, many people who were members of the legislature, many babus, civil servants, Indian soldiers began to question whether the British is this. So this also eroded the Mai Baap, you can use the word, image of the British in India. And that is why all this paved way, so we will conclude it, all this paved way for the gradual transfer of power to Indians. So you have to write this. So because of all these factors, the British realized. So I was telling you, just to complete the argument, that the British rule is based on two pillars. One is the Mai Baap image, and second was the myth of invincibility. They cannot be defeated. Especially after the 1857 revolt, it was established that they had defeated all the rulers, they cannot be defeated, we cannot fight with them, just we have to accept it. But over the years, what happened? We found new ways to fight with them, satyagraha. And during the Quit India movement, despite so much of brutal force, Indian also countered, they also fought. There was underground movement, Congress radio, Karnataka method. So because of all these developments, we find that this convinced the British to plan exit from India. This is something you can write. So in this question, there is a lot of information. This could have easily been asked as a 15 marker, but in 10 marker, we will use the flow charts or we will use some of the pointers to answer. Next question, how far it is right to say that the First World War was fought essentially for the preservation of balance of power? Now, two questions, question number 12 and question number 13, they have asked it in this way, that how far? How far means they are asking your opinion that do you think that the First World War was fought largely for the preservation of power? So this question will have two components. One, where we will vindicate, where we will write, justify that how the First World War was fought with the idea of preservation of balance of power. And second, we will also in the second half, because it's a 15 marker question, we will write that no, there were other factors also. Possibly we will give lesser weightage to that. What are the other factors which were also responsible for the outbreak of First World War? So before we start, what is this? What is the meaning of balance of power? You don't have to define it. Balance of power in international politics is the idea that power is shared between nations, institutions, so that there is no abuse of power or there is no single power which is dominating the international politics or has established its hegemony. So we will try to understand that how the shift in the balance of power, especially in the last 20 years before World War I, was so sudden that it created insecurity, tensions in the minds of a number of states which participated in the World War. Now, before we go ahead, there is also one thing, always remember that balance of power is always in a transition. It is never fixed. Power is always in a mode of transfer, and whenever the balance of power is abrupt, I always say this, whenever the balance of power is always abrupt, it necessarily leads to conflict. You can relate it to the present times also. For example, you see the rise of an aggressive and much assertive, to some extent an imperialist Russia under Vladimir Putin, who tries to revive the glory of the Russian Empire, and that has led to a conflict. But the rise of China has been gradual. It has not necessarily led to conflict between China and US. Why? because it has been assertive but in a gradual way. Now, how would we frame the introduction to it? I always say that to write an introduction, we need to emphasize on keywords. What can be the keywords for this question? In this question, we can start with a very simple way. We can say that the First World War, 1914 to 1919, was the total war. You can use this word, total war. Fought between Central Powers led by Germany versus Allied Powers led by Britain and France, or you can say even the Triple Entente. Then we have to say that the First World War was in many ways a culmination of European politics of 19th century, or in many ways the First World War was a culmination or outcome, you can use these type of words, of the strains in, the tensions in European politics during 19th century. We will not go that back, but we can mention, so that the person who is evaluating understands that you have a holistic knowledge of the background to World War I. Then after writing this, I think your introduction is okay. Then you would say that the First World War was driven by many factors. One of them was balance of power or changing balance of power. So then after writing that link line or the bridge sentence, you write about, give a subheading, balance of power. So it is good that in 15 marker, 20 marker question, you break up your question into subheadings. Balance of power in Europe. So you would say that we will write that in 19th century and 20th century, we see that balance of power in Europe was maintained or it shifted at multiple intervals. How the balance of power was maintained? So we know that after the fall of Napoleon, the concert of Europe, which was formed by the Vienna Congress, you can use a line diagram. So you have to write that after the fall of Napoleon, in 19th century European politics, the concert of Europe, which was formed by the Vienna Congress, maintained a balance of power. And at that time, the concert of Europe was dominated by four powers: Prussia, Britain, Austria, and Russia. France was in a weak state. But we know that by 1848, we see that France was stronger. France was stronger. France was in a much stronger place and Austria was weakened. Then the balance of power will again shift in 1870. 1870 is a very turning point. Why? Because in 1870, German unification and Italian unification happened. And with German unification, especially it is written by Winston Churchill, that in the Battle of Sedan, Europe lost a mistress and gained a master. So after 1870, we see a new balance of power in which we have a weak France, we have a stronger Germany, we have Britain, we have Russia, we have Ottomans. So these are the powers, but out of them Germany is very strong, Britain is as strong as it was, we have Austria-Hungary. So these powers are there, but Germany is a new power, aspirational, it is a new power. Italy is also there, but Italy is a weak power. So it is said that the politics after 1870 witnessed a new balance of power, and the balance of power after 1870 was based on the system of alliances. Very important. This is very important that you have to write that in Europe the balance of power that emerged after 1870 was based on secret agreements, system of alliances, and primarily two major alliances emerged: Triple Alliance 1882, Italy, Germany, Austria, Hungary, and finally in 1907 Triple Entente. Triple Entente. So there was a balance of power, but even in this power balance there were prevailing tensions. So right, despite this there were prevailing tensions. However, these tensions were contained because the powers were part of alliances and they were pitched against each other. Largely I would say this. So there were prevailing tensions like Germany versus France. France had lost not only the Battle of Sedan but also Alsace-Lorraine. There was tensions and competition, I would say more of competition between two industrial power. One was the old British and one was the new Germany. There were tensions between Italy versus France on the Roman question and also over the control over Tunisia. Now, while all this is happening in Central and Western Europe, in Eastern Europe, you have to also understand that the outbreak of First World War was also an outcome of the changing dynamics in Eastern Europe, mainly in the Balkan Peninsula. Balkan Peninsula was a multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic region inhabited by Orthodox Christians, which was under the Ottoman rule after the fall of Byzantines. But in the last 100 years, the Ottoman Empire was beginning to decline. That is why Tsar Nicholas I had said that Ottoman Empire was the sick man of Europe. And because of the fall of Ottoman Empire, the Christians in the Balkan Peninsula, they began to have national aspirations. So we see the rise of Balkan nationalism in 19th century. Russia is also interested in the Balkan issue. So in Eastern Europe, we see a complex issue was happening, and that complex power tussle was called as Eastern Question. So I discuss Eastern Question in detail in the class. So this was a diplomatic, it was a territorial, it was a commercial and a religious conflict that was happening in the Balkan Peninsula. And in this region, Eastern Europe, Balkan Peninsula, eventually a balance of power emerged in which there were Ottomans, sick man of Europe. Ottoman Empire was there, balanced by Russia. Russia wanted to establish control over the Bosporus, Dardanelles, Sea of Marmara, all these water bodies, because Russia wanted to get access to the ports of this region, warm water diplomacy. Russia is also an Orthodox Christian country. Russia tries to establish itself as the big brother of Balkan Christians. Russia is telling the Balkan Christians, I support your nationalism. So Russia has political and commercial interests. Commercial, warm water diplomacy, political, big brother. And then you have Balkan states. Some of the Balkan states have become independent, like Bulgaria, Serbia, Montenegro, but they want more. And Russia is supporting of the Balkan states, especially Russia is supporting, it supports pan-Slavism of Serbia. The idea of or the dream of Serbia to unite all the Slav-speaking population into one nation. But who does not want Russia to be powerful? We find that Russia is being resisted. Otherwise, had these powers not been there, Russia would have establish its hegemony in this region, Balkan Peninsula. So Britain, France and Austria does not want Russia to become powerful. Especially Austria has its eye on some of the Balkan territories, especially Bosnia-Herzegovina. So all of you have to analyze the balance of power in this way. This was the balance of power which existed before it started destabilizing in the first decade of 20th century. Now we see the change in balance of power. How did the change in balance of power happen? In, I would say, first decade, you have to write this, of 20th century. And then it culminated into First World War. How did this change in balance of power? First, the rise of German emperor and his policies. Kaiser William II, his policy of Welt politic, he was no longer satisfied. Being a continental power like Bismarck, he wanted to establish Germany as a world power. His policy of aggressive militarism, he does not believe in the system of alliances. He does not believe in the concept of balance of power. So this, because of the rise of Kaiser William and his aggressive policies, his naval policy, this has threatened Britain, France, even Russia is not sure about his intentions. So they would intervene to prevent the check of Germany. On the other hand, when the alliance between Russia, Britain and France was concluded in 1907, Germans started feeling encircled. They felt that we have enemies on two sides. So one of the reasons why Germany would start the war is because they wanted to prevent a prospect of a two-front war. So we know that Germany is feeling threatened. And then to add to all this, so everybody will participate in the war for their own reason. And then we find that Austria, Hungary annexed Bosnia-Herzegovina. So this was something that was a violation of the Berlin Congress 1878. This is the Bosnian crisis. So this destabilized the annexation of Bosnia-Herzegovina, and Austria was given a blank check, or it was supported by Germany. So basically Russia would participate in World War I not only to support, this means that this led to the rivalry between Austria-Hungary and Serbia, but it also means that Russia will participate in World War I to maintain the balance of power in the Balkan Peninsula, which has been destabilized by Bosnia-Herzegovina annexation or the Bosnian crisis. Britain will participate in World War because Britain would want to check the aggression of Germany, and Germany would start the war. The Schlieffen Plan, we read, the Schlieffen Plan or the sudden attack plan of Germany on France was an idea to prevent an all-out war on two fronts. Ottomans joined the war. Why? Because Ottomans have lost all faith in the British, and they believed that after the Balkan Wars, in which they lost a lot of territories, the only way by which they can preserve themselves is by being on the side of Germany. Germany is fighting against Britain. So here we have to write, after understanding this, we have to write that who participated or why did they participate? Why did British participate? Why did France participate? France participated to avenge its loss and also to check the aggression of Germany. Germany started the war because Germany wanted to suppress French so that before Russia joins. And why did Russia join? To check the growing influence of Austria and Germany in the Balkan Peninsula. So you have to write all these points. In the last half, you would say that no, there were other factors also. what are the other factors also which led to the outbreak of World War I? First, World War I was also a clash of nationalism, national interests. A number of nations were formed who were driven by their immediate interest, realism. For example, why did Japan join? Because it wanted to gain more territory, especially the German-controlled territories in China. Japan thought that this is a war in which Europeans will be diverted and I can expand my influence in East Asia. Why did Italy join? Despite being a part of the Triple Alliance, Italy joined because it was promised certain Austrian-controlled territories along Adriatic, German colonies. So everybody was driven by this. Everybody was fighting for this. Second, we see a culture of militarism in Europe, arms race. Third, it is said that the outbreak of World War I was in many ways a tragedy of miscalculation. Nobody had hoped for this war or the magnitude of the war to be so much. For example, the Germans had not estimated that the British would participate in the war. The Austrians had not thought that the Russians would immediately come to the rescue of Serbians. And in fact, the failure of the Schlieffen plan, which was too perfect to be executed, was itself a miscalculation. Then you can say that the other reason why this regional conflict or bilateral conflict escalated into an international conflict was because of the system of alliances. The system of alliances to some extent internationalized. Or it escalated the conflict. So try to write all this. This question is not about the causes of World War. So a larger portion of it has to be analyzed in terms of the balance of power, the shift in the balance of power. What were the events and developments? Who were responsible? Who and why did they participate? We know that US participated largely to protect its credit. US was not concerned with this power politics that was happening. So that is why we have not brought US into this picture. Next question. It is also a question in which they have written that how far the Industrial Revolution in England was responsible for the decline of handicrafts and cottage industries in India. Again, how far means two factors. We have to answer this question by writing that yes, to some extent, yes, it was responsible, directly responsible, but there were other factors also. And then if in the conclusion you can write that to say that it was an all-around destruction is an exaggeration. There was still native, I would say, handloom which prevailed. So that can be written in the conclusion. So let's try to understand that how do we frame an answer to it and what are the different arguments which can come. Now, if we again talk about the introduction, IR in England, this is there. The question is to what extent IR in England led to deindustrialization. So basically deindustrialization is a term which refers to the decline and disruption of handicrafts and handloom in India. Fine. So what is the relation between the two? So in this question, there are multiple ways by which you can start. You can say that it is a paradox. It is a paradox that at a time when there was industrial revolution in England from mid 18th century, gradually this would be the beginning of deindustrialization in India, especially after the conquest of Bengal. It is a paradox. Then you would say that deindustrialization, you have to give some proof in old NCERT, Bipan Chandra, you have a lot of data. So if possible, you can quote data, it is good. If not possible, then at least you can refer that what do you mean by deindustrialization. So you would say that deindustrialization was attested by the declining participation of workforce. In manufacturing and mining. So how would you say that handloom and handicraft sector is on a fall? How would economists conclude? Because they would measure. So according to an estimate, between 1881 to 1911, the percentage of population working in the secondary sector had fell from 35% to 17%. There is another way to write. If you remember, Shashi Tharoor in his book Era of Darkness, had said that at the time of Aurangzeb's death, so we have to understand that India was the Lancashire, at least the Indian textile industry was the Lancashire of the East. At the time of Aurangzeb's death, Shashi Tharoor has written that India's share in world trade was 23.25%. You have to write this. But because of this whole-scale destruction of industries, India's share declined to around 3% in 1947. So there are a number of evidences available according to which historians, Congress leaders, even ICS officials have concluded that British are responsible for the destruction of Indian handicraft and handloom sector. In fact, Karl Marx has also written that it was the British interlude which was responsible for the decline of textile sector in India. R.C. Dutt, ICS official, who has written the economic history of India, moderates like Dada Bhai Nauroji, even Congress leaders like Madan Mohan Malviya, Jawaharlal Nehru, and later historians, Marxist historians like Bipan Chandra, all of them have written. Bipan Chandra has written a book, Rise of Economic Nationalism. So, in the introduction, because these are very popular examples, in the introduction, you can come up with some of these examples. Now, we will say that in many ways, it can be concluded that the industrial revolution in England, which started in which sector? Textile. So we have to also understand that industrial revolution in England, the first phase from 1750s to 1840s was in the textile sector. I hope you remember that Eric Hobsbawm had said that whoever says IR or industrial revolution says cotton. So definitely the British would want or go an extra mile to promote their textile industries in India. But before the impact of industrial revolution or the textile revolution in England on the textile industry in India, we also have to briefly write the position of Indian textile industry in the world trade, because that would help us to present the contrast. So you have to say that there was huge demand, or as R.C. Dutt has said, that textile, especially weaving, was the national industry. In India. And there were a number of textile. When I say textile, I mean cotton textile, I mean silk, I mean calicos, I mean woolen. All of this comes under textile. So there are different varieties of textile, from coarse wool, coarse cotton cloth to finer muslin or tussar, everything. So we find that India used to export its items to Europe, to England definitely in large number, to China, to Burma, to Africa, Persia, Indonesia. So wherever you go, you would find an Indian textile. And not only this, in India, there were multiple centers of textile. We have Ahmedabad, Surat, Satara, we have Patna, Dhaka, Murshidabad, we have Lucknow, Kashmir, we have Madurai, Kanchipuram. So multiple centers are there. And each of them were producing different types of goods. So these are the important, I would say, place of exports or important centers of manufacturing also. Calcutta was there. And we know that before the industrial revolution started, or before we see the destructive impact of industrial revolution, there was a lot of demand for Indian textile goods in England. We would read that before IR, we have to establish the fact that before IR, Indian goods or Indian textiles were procured via Dadni system. Dadni system, by the Dadni system, the Bengal textiles were exported to England. And in return for this, Indians used to earn a lot of money. But then Industrial Revolution started. And after the Industrial Revolution, we see a number of deliberate policies, direct and indirect policies have been adopted by the British government, British Parliament, to suppress the demand and the supply of Indian textiles in England. So what are the policies we have to see? What are the different ways or policies? So then, after giving a brief introduction or after giving a brief idea about the position of Indian textile, you have to write that the ways or the policies to suppress Indian textile goods and promote the British manufactured goods. So, what are the multiple ways? Number one, as early as 1769, the Court of Directors had given message to the East India Company officials that you should encourage the procurement of raw textile, not manufactured textile. So the idea was, as early as 1769, the Court of Directors had given message to East India Company officials in Bengal to transform Bengal into an agricultural farm. First thing. Second, the British textile manufacturers were aware of the fact that without some, I would say, preferential treatment, they would not be able to compete with the Indian goods, even if they are producing. Yes, the British manufactured goods were of decent quality and were much cheaper. Still, there was demand. So they started lobbying. And then as a result of lobbying, industrial lobbying, in the British Parliament enacted a number of laws. They started a culture of discriminatory tariff. Culture of discriminatory tariff by enacting the Charter Act 1813. They said that it is enacted in the spirit of free trade capitalism, but there was one-way free trade. So this promoted a culture of one-way free trade. One-way free trade. Third, there were other measures also, such as physical destruction of handlooms. Physical destruction of handlooms. Also, they imposed unprofitable, uneconomic conditions on the Bengal weavers so that they found it difficult to oblige. So there are instances, some of the Dutch officials have written that in Bengal the weavers used to cut their thumbs so that they cannot be forced to produce at a cost which is definitely going into losses. So all type of physical violence also. Then we find that then there was economic sense. The British textile goods were cheaper. They were cheaper and of decent quality. Fifth, the advent of railways. So railways were famously called as imperialism on wheels. Railways were not only to promote an avenue of capital investment, but railways also enabled the deeper reach of the British industrialists into India. They could go to faraway corners to procure raw materials and also sell their goods. So this was also encouraged. So all these factors, 4-5 factors you can write, they were responsible for the decline of handicrafts and handlooms. But then there are other factors also. How far? So we will say there are other factors also, which is first is political factors. With the rise of British rule and the decline of princely states, there was loss of official patronage. So many of the handicrafts and handloom survived or thrived because their primary or their elite customer was the nobles and maharajas. So with the fall of this, this political class, that market was also lost. Second, the new middle class the educated intelligentsia was fond of British goods because they saw the manufactured goods, the industrial goods as a symbol of modernity. They associated it with progress, scientific development. So they endorsed it. There is another phenomenon, not only these, but even the poor were fond of Sanskritization. So there has been study that even the poor were fond of machine-made goods. For example, there are evidences that the lower caste, the Shudra of Madras presidency, were now buying machine-made sarees instead of the hand-woven Kanjivaram sarees because they thought that this would also elevate their status. So there was a sentiment also involved. They associated with progress, modernity. They thought that this is also a means of upward social mobility. So we can say that with the decline, with the advent of industrial revolution, in many ways, because of the combination of ways, and then the land revenue system also was geared towards the British needs. The production of cash crops which started in 19th century did not benefit the Indian handicrafts or handloom workers, but was to cater to the needs of an industrializing Britain. After the American Civil War, cotton cultivation started. In fact, during the Civil War it started, and then the culture of raw cotton export to Britain was there. So the organic link between Indian agriculture and handloom sector was disrupted by the British intervention in Indian agriculture. So you can write all these factors. And until the 20th century, how would we conclude? We would say that despite this, we see that during the British Raj, the rise of indigenous Indian industries from 20th century, Swadeshi movement during World War, after World War I, so that by Second World War, Indian industrial sector was also to a handsome degree controlled by Indian capitalists. So I've tried to cover as much as possible. So try to frame your own answer and try to weave all these information in the form of a proper structured answer. Thank you.